Hi guys, Kirk and family here. We're going to show you today how to match this texture from this texture. And what is this texture? It's a tex coat. It's an old tex coat, about 35 years old. Done very, very well too. In fact, you could still see some glass shining in some spots. The owner says, "Hey, what's that crystally stuff?" I said, "Glass." You take sand and you say sand gets hit by lightning in the desert, and that makes the purest form of glass. But sand is the main ingredient for glass. Anyway, there's a lot of glassy color in here. If you look at it at a specific angle, camera's not going to show it, but you see it shining everywhere. Thought I'd point that out. What do we have here? We have a wall. Say, hear that? Okay, that means this wall is out, too proud for this finish. And plus, the guy, when he did this patch here, he did it where he threw on a dash finish, and he was okay. I'd give him a 2 if he was a professional. Homeowner, I'd give him about a 6. Not bad, but it definitely shows. Now, over here, we got the same thing. It's off. Again, I'm not sure if Carl can pick that up with the camera, but this is way too proud. There's a couple ways to do it. If I were to apply a bonding agent here and skim it from here to here, you'd still see the hump if you're looking at it from, say, a straight angle. So we want to take some of this off. And the owner says, "Well, what can you grind it off?" Guys, quick couple tips, guys. If you use a grinder, and by the way, this particular grinder has a blade that's oversized and the safety is off. I don't recommend it. But if you use a grinder, it's just going to make dust everywhere. I've done it. It's a nightmare. And some tools, like say, I got a lot of these big ones here. They're just too heavy. You're holding them for an hour or so. And I got the 5s, the 6s of these. They're just kind of heavy for this, but they're great for other purposes. You could take a Sawzall or a reciprocating saw and put a blade on it, but it's not really meant for this. You can be here all day with this. It's not meant for it. So what I'm really going to show you is, I like this particular tool here. You get a specialty bit. Now, let me set this where I could actually work it a little bit better at the right angle. And these tools right here, up. First of all, you got to get them in there. All right, now this one here. Say to remove some of this. What happens? Okay, I've got hatchets on my truck. I've got lathing hatchets where we could hit it. But what that'll do is, that'll compromise the membrane. I don't know what's underneath this. So what we don't want to do is remove that membrane or disturb it and cause it to leak. It doesn't leak right now. So what I'm going to do, or what Carl is going to do after he gets off this camera, is he's going to do this. He's going to use skill rather than muscle, because we don't want to disturb that paper. This is one of the better chisel bits here. Generally, if I'm breaking stucco out, I have a 1-inch bit. If you use a 2-inch bit, it's much harder. Anyhow, what we'll do is just like that. See that? I won't bore you and do more than that, but you get the idea. This is a Bosch Bulldog, the right tool. Carl's going to spend about an hour here of breaking this down. Then when we get to the next stage, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a bonding agent over this, and we're going to re-skim it. Now, to match this tex coat, this is perlite. No, it's sand, because I see the glass in it, the shine. We're just going to apply another. What I'm going to use is, I could use Portland cement and mix it, or I could use an acrylic finish with the aggregate about 1620. That just means a heavy sand. I could skim it. It'll stick to this without even a bonding agent. I could use a primer instead. But when we get to that stage, we'll show you, and I'll show you how we remove this hump. Okay, guys, we decided on a different system. We couldn't break it down enough to give this particular product that I was going to use. This is kind of like tape and mud. It's tape and mud, you go 1/16 of an inch. This, you go 1/8 of an inch. It's an acrylic finish, adheres to everything, is the same texture as what they have, or real close to it. I mean, granted, they're going to paint this anyhow. And generally what we do, we apply that, and we just use a sponge float, and boom. It was easy, but what we had to do is apply a bonding agent over everything. And yes, they do make white bonding agents, or clear. You can get them at Home Depots or Lowe's, and I kind of fancy the weld creeps because you could see if you miss a spot because they're blue. When I had big crews, definitely needed that, because if you miss an area, the plaster will not adhere. So what we're doing now is I'm just skimming this out. You got a rock in it, just get that rock out. Okay, skimming it out. Let's see here. Okay, we got another rock in it. Get rid of it. And what we have, of course, we already did the top stuff. I don't like to try to explain something with staging in the way. I'm going to go ahead and hit the rest of this like so. And this is the bad area that they applied a dash instead of a fine float finish. They did extra work, and it just wasn't necessary. When you dash something, that's throwing on a finish. This is actually a finish, what we call a float finish. You float it first, then you dash, if you even have to dash. Okay, so this area here is about an inch thick. That's where the concrete stairs came down. And the area that I did a little while ago, because this is thick right there, that's a good inch. Right here is about an inch also. That's the joint, the transition. And again, granted, if you're looking sideways on this wall, you want it to be somewhat as straight as possible. Now my transition is off in every direction because I'm following the wall and I'm correcting all of the bad things. Like say, here I have a ½ inch. In here we got about a ½ inch. Why do I put so much? I'm going back and forth. I'm going coat after coat inside here because the fellas who did this originally had an idea of what they were doing, but that's about it. Over here, I've got 2 coats already. I'm going to put a third. I figured I wouldn't bore you guys with all these damn coats. You can see when I started it was the sun was on here, and now the sun is off. That's how long it's taken to dress this wall and get it to where we want it. Now what I'll do is the floating process. And the floating means how to get this to look consistent with everything. That's not so hard, guys. This is my last trowel actually. Here, here, and here. What I generally do is I'll float out the bad stuff, and where it's proud, I'll hit it hard. I can feel it with the wall. Hit that part hard, and then loosen up where you need that extra mud. Right there is the last piece. Okay, we got a big hump right here, huge hump. So I'm going to hit the hump dead center, and then feather the rest in. And yeah, I've done this where it's 2 inches off, 2 to 3 inches off, and the further off it is, the further you have to tie in. Okay, now that we got that done, we will take a sponge float. If you watched a lot of the stuff we do, I'll take a sponge float and I'll hit my joints first. Okay. This is pretty wet and it's pretty full. Technically, I should wait another ½ hour, but I don't want to because I want to get this mic off. All right, so I'm taking this part here, and guys, if you're watching this at home and you say, man, I want to do that, I got a wall that's just as jacked up, let it dry a little bit more and it'll be a lot easier. This is still pretty thick, and so what I've got to do is I got to take my sponge float completely flat, kind of like snowboarding. If you go completely flat, you can get a little bit of speed going, but if you put it on edge, what'll happen is if I put this on edge any which way, it'll make an indentation. Now too, I've got too much Portland cement on this float, so it'll tend to drag it. I don't want to drag it. What we want to do is match that finish. And so I clean it, I flip it. Flip that because that's a clean side now. Okay, now here where we're inch thick, just barely hit it because I just put that on there and it's wet. Again, you folks, if you're watching this, just let it dry a little bit longer. How do you know when it's drying, guys? Well, you could take your glasses off like I just did and see better. We were working in the hot sun a little while ago and breaking out, so I had them on. But I can look at it and I can see it's still too wet. So the float is everything. Here, the amount of water you put on it. The amount of water on this float means everything. If you put too much, it'll just make rivers in it. Notice when I do it, I keep flipping this float. That's because the water's starting to come off of one side, and I'll flip it so that it holds the water and doesn't drip down the wall. And when you have a wet wall, when you have a wall that you just put a lot of stucco on it, say like this area here, it tends to want to follow the low points. Meaning, again, all right, I'm going to clean my float. Right here we're really heavy, and then really thin. So I'll take my thin part and I'll go on it, and I'll just get rid of that because it'll stick on the float, and then it'll drag it. You know, using a float, it really does take a lot of practice. I've been doing it for a lot of years, and sometimes I'll just be all day floating behind fellas. They apply it, I'll just float for color coats and things like that. And you get a good grip on it and good handle on what the heck and when it's time to flip it. I know see there? A lot of people will call me and say, Kirk, you know, I tried that and I just can't seem to make it work. Maybe it's the float. It's like it just takes practice, guys. It takes a lot of practice to do this. I'm going to do it one more time and we'll call it an explanation. But before I call it an explanation, I'm going to show you one thing. If I put a lot of water on here, I could see how pronounced the sand becomes. And if you say, gee, I want to make it a little finer than that, well, you can do that. You get your float, clean all the mud off of it, tap it on the wall below. This is all getting painted anyway. Remove all the excess water. Let this set. Now watch me pull that out. Okay, it's really pronounced, the grain, the sand. And now I just hit it again with less, and it actually makes the texture here match this fine finish. Pretty on the money, much tighter. So the more water you use, the heavier that float, or the more aggregate is going to be exposed. The less water, the finer the finish, and we just match whatever finish is there. Anyway, guys, my name is Kirk. Carl on the camera. We thank you for watching, and as usual, we'll see you guys on the next one. Once again, folks, we thank you for watching, and I really enjoy all your comments.
If you guys like this video, please click the like button down below, and also if you enjoy what we do, subscribe to our channel so we can keep making these videos for you.
My name is Kirk.
And Jay.
We thank you for watching, and from the entire Giordano family, we'll see you on the next one.